Welcome to The Dark Divide, a podcast that takes a seat, dangles its legs over the edge, and stares into the abyss. This is the story of Fatiha Marzan. Southern Charm Drive in Orlando offers up a quintessential Florida neighborhood. Modern homes with multiple bedrooms, manicured lawns hosting oak and palm trees, providing humble slices of shade in the humid heat. When a quiet cul-de-sac was covered with vehicles for police and paramedics on the evening of September 26, 2022, the neighbors noticed. Inside the home was an unimaginable tragedy, all starting with an eerie call that Fatiha Marzan made to 911.
What's going on?
We had problems, and my sister is probably bleeding out. I don't know if she's still alive.
Okay, what happened?
Stabbed. She was stabbed.
She was stabbed? Who stabbed her?
I did.
What did you stab her with?
Huh?
What did you stab her with?
A knife.
Where's that knife now?
It's next to her.
What's your name, ma'am?
What's my name?
Yes.
Fatiha Marzan.
Fatiha told the dispatcher that she and her sister had problems, and she was probably bleeding out. 20-year-old Sima had been stabbed multiple times over 12 hours before the call was placed. Fatiha knew she was dead. Sitting in the upstairs bedroom they shared together, she soon heard the sound of sirens in the distance as authorities approached the driveway around 7:30 p.m. Orange County deputies were surprised to find a small woman still appearing like a young girl, wearing black and white chucks with skinny jeans, a dark hoodie, and a hijab covering her hair. She seemed meek and alarmingly unaffected by what was happening around her. 20 minutes later, Sima Marzan was declared dead by first responders, and Fatiha would be led out to the back of a cop car in handcuffs. Fatiha swung open the heavy glass doors of her office building and greeted the morning sunshine sparkling up the gray pavement. It had been a long shift of captioning calls for the hearing impaired, staring at the empty walls of her tiny cubicle between customers. Lately, it was almost impossible not to let her mind wander to this time last year, when she had things to look forward to after work was over. The call center had a tendency to feel like its own little microcosm of screens and disconnection. She could always feel the rest of the world waking up as she drove home. It used to mean that Joseph was waking up too. "Good morning, Bubby," he would text her, using their shared nickname for each other. He wasn't always the most romantic or affectionate, so little things like that meant a lot. Joseph was over 9 hours away in North Carolina, but mentally he was always just one tiny thought away for Fatiha. After meeting online in a shared group chat in 2017, the two made it a habit to talk for hours and hours, whether it was voice calls on Discord, pictures of their daily lives on Snapchat, or playing video games together. Things seemed to click almost right away, and Fatiha had fallen for him quickly. Next month would be 5 years since they met, and for the last 3, Fatiha had worked long hours, sometimes over 60 a week, saving up to get an apartment together. Having previously lived in Florida, Joseph claimed he was eager to relocate back there. First, she purchased a car, determined to pay it off in full before his arrival. There was almost this unspoken agreement that as long as he got down there, Fatiha would take care of the rest. He didn't have a license, but she could drive him around until he did. He also didn't have a job, but Joseph said it would just be easier for him to get one after the move instead of settling into something there. They joked about getting married, even if Fatiha was only a teenager when they met. Living under her father's strict roof, the idea of freedom was nice, but if Joseph was with her, it would be bliss. She really didn't care how hard she had to work to make that happen. And now she was 21 years old, and she had been so sure that everything was leading up to a perfect chapter. At least it had seemed that way. Until her 20-year-old sister Sima invited herself into the picture and complicated everything. A couple years ago, she had broken up with her boyfriend, and for some reason saw Joseph as the perfect confidant to turn to in her heartbreak. Fatiha had walked in on them playing Valorant over Discord together. Sima wasn't even that interested in video games. "Stop talking to my boyfriend," Fatiha snapped, slamming the laptop shut. A few minutes later, Sima's phone rang. "You're talking to him over the phone too? Don't you have enough boys you could go after?" Fatiha said angrily, in total disbelief at how her sister could betray her. She knew how much she loved Joseph. All of her sisters did. Occasionally, her younger sister would message Joseph over Discord too, but she was respectful about it, and that was okay with her. To a certain point, it made sense. Fatiha had plans for the two of them. They would be married, and he would be a part of their family. But this was crossing the line. Sharing a room with Sima, she was privy to almost everything she did. Instead of texting her good morning or checking in with her throughout the day, Joseph was too busy now, distancing himself as he got closer to Sima right in front of her face. Fatiha constantly felt sick to her stomach, worthless, and stupid. She didn't blame Joseph in the same way that she blamed her sister. He was just trying to be nice, and Sima flirted back to him. It had been over a year of this when she read messages between them, Joseph confessing his love for Sima in a way he never had with her. "Why can't you just go flirt with someone else?" Fatiha would plead with Sima in between bouts of refusing to speak to her at all. Their whole lives growing up, it was as if every situation became a competition. And for the most part, Fatiha had put up with the sisterly tension of that. But when it came to Joseph, she knew that Sima would win, and this was a fight she couldn't lose. At one point, Joseph suggested the idea of an open relationship where he could explore his feelings for both of them without consequence. The girls did not amuse this idea. They were already feuding with jealous rage and somewhat shocked at how he could be so selfishly clueless. Now, Joseph had told Fatiha that his feelings for her sister were so strong he couldn't ignore them. And it wouldn't be fair to her, to their relationship, if he was always wondering in the back of his mind if he had chosen the right person. "I mean, it's not like you're going to pay my rent and let me live with you, knowing that I'm going off on dates with Sima," Joseph lamented with a naive greed. No, I'm not," Fatiha confirmed. Lately, she carried around this burden like a heavy rock in her chest. Life felt meaningless again, but even worse than before she met Joseph. It was harder knowing that someone she loved and connected with so effortlessly existed out there, and no matter what she did, it wasn't enough. She had allowed Joseph to string her along in some sort of testament to her commitment, some belief that it was all possible that she couldn't quite shake off. But they were barely talking anymore, and Fatiha felt like the walking dead, like an empty shell. Every daydream of the last 5 years had included Joseph. Now she just coasted from moment to moment, never fully in the present, but feeling too depressed to sink delightfully into the past. He had been making it clear that his mind was made up, and he was going to meet Sima soon in person to see what kind of sparks there were in real life. Fatiha had met Joseph briefly in 2019 during an awkward and quick meet and greet while he vacationed in Florida with his family. Images of her sister and Joseph kissing and pawing at each other made her want to throw up, made her see blood red. A few times she had jokingly said to Joseph that all of this would be easier for them if she just killed Sima, followed with an LOL or silly emoji. He never took these remarks seriously. And at first, neither did Fatiha. Until one day, the thought stuck in a way it hadn't before. Until she realized that the hopelessness she felt was somehow comforted by the idea that if Sima was dead and Joseph still didn't want her, then at least she would be no worse off than she already was. At least she could rest her head on her pillow every night knowing that he wasn't falling asleep next to her sister. Fatiha pulled into the driveway and parked her car. But instead of getting out and going upstairs to the room they both shared, she took out her phone and started searching on Amazon for daggers. For less than $20, she could kill her sister, kill herself, and make up Joseph's mind for him. It was time to end this charade. By September 25th, Fatiha had made up her mind. She would wait until every member of her family went to bed, take out the knife set from its hiding spot in her closet, and stab her sister to death when she fell asleep. She had ordered the knives 2 weeks ago from Amazon, purchasing a set of 2. She was fairly certain that after it was all over, Joseph wouldn't forgive her, and she'd have nothing to live for. But living without him already felt pointless. It seemed as if his mind was already made up about choosing Sima over her. If he hated her after this, she was no worse off than she already was. At least Sima would be out of the picture forever. She would use the second knife to take her own life. That night she tried to be extra nice to her little sister, the sibling she felt closest to. For a minute, a massive sense of guilt took over Fatiha, not about killing Sima, but about leaving her older and younger sisters behind. Life wasn't always easy in the Marzan household. Her father was especially strict, as if they weren't already dealing with enough pressures. Growing up Muslim, being teenage girls, trying to figure out where they fit into the world while simultaneously carrying the weight of exceedingly high parental expectations. There had been times when Fatiha felt embarrassed about all of it. In fact, that had been a fundamental ingredient when it came to the unparalleled bond she felt with Joseph. He seemed to understand her so effortlessly, making it easy for Fatiha to be emotionally vulnerable for the first time in her life. Both platonic and romantic, Joseph eventually became her source of everything. She wanted his love, she wanted his friendship, she wanted his devotion and attention. And for a while, she got it, until Sima came back into the picture and stole him away from her. Now she couldn't think about Joseph without the bitter sting of betrayal piercing her gut. She felt hollow. Every daydream was ruined. Fatiha anxiously waited for her chance at revenge. Every time Sima let out a giggle at her phone screen, she felt sick to her stomach, sure that she was talking to Joseph. He used to make her giggle that way, but now he had no time for her. Whenever they spoke, he was distant or cold, acting as if there had never really been anything between them in the first place. It was clear now that he was willing to stomp all over her heart if it meant winning her sister over. Fatiha was just a placeholder now, a second thought, and she knew what people would think, that she was crazy. But she had tried talking to Joseph, tried telling her sister to back off. She tried waiting it out, hoping for the best. As far as she was concerned, the end would justify the means. Nobody would ever get it, how devastated and jealous she was, how it felt like she wanted him so badly she couldn't breathe. Sima didn't know what it was like. She'd had boyfriends in the past. Joseph would just be another guy she would use until someone better came along, Fatiha thought. And for that, he had betrayed something so good with so much potential. By 4:30 a.m., the house was as quiet as a midnight church. Sima had finally turned off her bedside light, breathing deeply in slumber. Fatiha pulled the knives out of a pink backpack in her closet and put one on the table. She held the other in her hand, running her finger gently over the sharp blade. It was now or never, she thought quickly, pouncing on her sister and plunging the knife into the middle of her chest. It was easier than she expected, not taking as much force as she thought it would. She pulled the blade out as Sima jerked awake, and then plunged the knife between what felt like her rib cage. "What the fuck?" Sima managed to blurt out, unable to catch her breath. Her eyes were wide with shock as she stared up at Fatiha. The pain sent jolts through her muscles like electricity. She still didn't even know what was happening, just that everything hurt and nothing was right. Using the last of her strength, she attempted to wriggle free beneath the weight of her sister. "Stop it," Fatiha hissed up close to her face. "Help." Sima let out a gasp. She'd had nightmares like this before, where she went to scream but nothing came out, except this wasn't a nightmare. And before she could make sense of it, her vision began to tunnel with a fuzziness similar to fainting. A bleak silence filled the room. It took a minute for Fatiha to realize it was over and loosen her white-knuckle grip on the knife's handle. Her whole body was shaking, like she was trembling from the inside out. Blood began to seep out from Sima's t-shirt, soaking the white sheets to crimson. Fatiha tossed the blanket upward over her face, covering her body. She felt sick, like she had just run very fast in the heat for a long time. The adrenaline running through her veins before and during the attack was slipping away, leaving behind an anxiety she hadn't felt before, one full of regret and self-doubt. Fatiha couldn't hold on to a thought longer than a second. Everything felt like a blur, and she was so tired. It had been over 24 hours since she slept. Where she had expected to feel vindication, she instead felt apathy. She set the knife down and let out a sigh. Pulling the sheets down on her own bed, Fatiha climbed in and dozed off within minutes. After a few hours of sleep, she woke up feeling even more tired than before. Once consciousness returned, so did the realization that her dead sister was in the bed next to her. Ignoring her mother's attempts to invite her downstairs to eat, Fatiha stayed locked in the room they shared, feeling depressed at the thought of killing herself. She dreaded telling Joseph what happened, knowing he'd probably hate her. Wanting to get it over with, she called him over Discord several times with no response. She called his cell phone directly, something they rarely did. A few minutes later, Joseph rang her back and Fatiha started a 40-minute conversation, her last ever, with the boy she loved. "I'm going to jail," she said without a hello. He thought she was joking at first, not understanding the context. Fatiha confessed what she had done out loud for the first time. When she said the words, "I killed her," Joseph didn't even need to ask who. Although this was absolutely unbelievable, that it seemed impossible to picture kind and quiet Fatiha having any sort of violent rage, he knew she meant Saima. The love triangle drama had been in full effect over the last several months. She had joked about killing her, but he never thought she was actually serious. For nearly an hour, they went back and forth, him asking her why, and her explaining that he should have seen this coming. She had begged and pleaded in so many ways for him to choose her. As she predicted, he couldn't speak to her anymore. Joseph had been falling for Saima, and not only was he heartbroken, but he felt sick to his stomach. He was states away, living a reality in an entirely different world. It all felt surreal. Fatiha sat in silence, wondering for a split second if it was worth it to have done this, to make Joseph hate her. Interrupting her pity party, Fatiha's phone let out the familiar high-pitched tone of a text message. She hoped it was Joseph. It wasn't. "You're being weird. What's up?" her little sister texted from downstairs. Before she knew it, Fatiha had sent a long, rambling reply explaining her despair and the plans to end her life. Unlike Saima, who had constantly made everything into a competition, Fatiha felt an endearing protectiveness toward her baby sister. Like an Achilles heel, she was her weak spot, and it was surprisingly difficult to lie to her. After she convinced her to unlock her door and let her inside, Fatiha admitted what she had done. Her sister suggested they call the oldest sister, who always knew what to do when they were in trouble. After urging her to phone 911, Fatiha considered for a moment if killing herself would be better than ending up behind bars. But it was too late now. She told the dispatcher that her sister was probably dying, but it had been 15 hours since Saima was stabbed. Fatiha knew her sister was dead, and in that small and mousy way, she would make lousy attempts to ease the burden of guilt in however she could, skirting around facts with a feigned ignorance. Saima would be declared officially deceased soon after paramedics arrived. While her mother sobbed with a visceral anguish, Fatiha was handcuffed and placed in the back of the police car. Detectives didn't know it yet, but this homicide investigation would have all the pieces of the puzzle laid out for them before the evening would be over. As soon as they got to the police station, Fatiha would explain everything herself. Detective Chelsea Kepsel and Detective Carlos Robles are sitting in the interrogation room with Fatiha after she's been photographed and her DNA collected. Kepsel will be leading the investigation as well as the interrogation. She's got a keen ability to read someone quickly, and that intuitive line of questioning has served her well during her career. Her father had been in law enforcement, and she grew up watching him take pride in wearing that badge. During long hours of patrolling around the city when she first started in the Orange County Sheriff's Office, she knew she always wanted to be in a position where she could investigate further. She didn't shy away from the dark side of her encounters. If anything, they just continued to thicken an already tough skin. Higher-ups admired her ability to stay calm and collected, to not shy away from even the most intense crimes. And she'd rise up to a corporal position, conducting interrogations, investigating homicides, and advocating for victims in both the sex crimes and cold case units. She could be tough or tender. It all depended on how the perpetrator presented themselves. After interrogating Sarah Boone in February of 2020, who zipped her boyfriend George Torres Jr. in a suitcase and watched him suffocate to death, Detective Kepsel would be watched and analyzed across the entire nation. Sarah was the opposite personality of Fatiha, where she spent hours denying and deflecting, victim-blaming, and rambling on insufferably about herself. Fatiha was a much more gentle and quiet person, even coming across as meek and nervous. But in a more significant difference, she's extremely forthcoming. Kepsel would receive criticism for her stern attitude towards Sarah, but she would end up securing a massive amount of evidence for Sarah's conviction during that interrogation. She had immediately read her as a narcissist who would need to be challenged. But with Fatiha, there was no reason to assume that she would be anything but fully cooperative, and the last thing you want to do is shut someone down who is more than willing to talk. The entire family had been extremely helpful during interviews with Kepsel. Fatiha's sister told her how kind she is, how out of character all of this was. Fatiha will bring out a softer and more empathetic flow of conversation. Both detectives walk in and Kepsel introduces them, explaining that they just want to understand what's going on and what happened from her standpoint. Fatiha's hands are rolled up into her sleeves, pressed nervously between her knees, shivering from the cold temperature of the interrogation room. She asks if Fatiha's ever spoken with the police before. She hasn't. Kepsel says she hopes this all doesn't come across as scary, and then collects a few basics, like the spelling of her name, her age, and her birthday. She notes that since she arrived at the station in handcuffs and that she's been arrested, she needs to be given a Miranda warning, and explains what that means before reading Fatiha her rights. After Fatiha says she understands, they continue to open up the dialogue with a few more easy questions about her place of work and who she lives with at home before asking Fatiha what happened. She was like, intentionally trying to steal my fiancé that I have talked to daily for 5 years. Fatiha's lips tremble as she holds back tears. Are we talking about Joseph? Kepsel asks softly. There isn't much of a need for probing tactics here. This mousy girl will most likely keep the transparency flowing and respond well to empathy. And flow it does. Fatiha admits her anger and despair immediately. I'm sorry you felt that way, Kepsel says. This is the first time anybody has ever listened to Fatiha's side of things and offered empathy about it. Her sisters, friends online, even Joseph. Nobody had given Fatiha a chance to be a victim. And she's relishing in this opportunity to talk about how horrible all of this has been for her. Kepsel asks Fatiha about Joseph's last name and where he lives. She'll be interviewing him later to get his view of the entire situation and verify what Fatiha says today. She tells the detective that they met in a group chat on Skype. They've only ever met once in person, but they've been talking every single day for nearly 5 years. It was serious. They were planning to move in together, and Fatiha's sister knew how hard she was working to save up for that.
She was, intentionally trying to steal my fiancé that I have talked to daily for 5 years.
Okay. Are we talking about Joseph?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just getting worse. And she didn't care about how it made me feel. And she had broken up with her ex when this started, and the first thing she came to was the most convenient person. And I told her, and we talked about it multiple times. And I told her to find someone else, because this one is already taken. And she kept pressing, and things were just getting worse. And I could see that she still had no intention of stopping, and everything was just ruined. And she doesn't care. And I just couldn't stand seeing them together. I didn't want to.
Well, I'm sorry that you felt that way.
So, it made me really angry. And I tried for almost a year now to just try to have it be normal or stay strong about it. But she just wouldn't. She didn't stop.
And what was she doing exactly with Joseph that made you feel like she was trying to take him from you?
Basically, trying to be in a relationship practically already in one.
Did Joseph feel that way? Or was he just being nice and talking to him?
That's how it started. He was trying to help her through it, but then she was just I don't know. She just flirts with everyone.
Okay. Joseph does not live in Florida right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where does he live?
In North Carolina.
Okay. When you said 5 years, when did you and Joseph meet?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what year or what month?
October. So it's basically 5 years now.
Yep. And how'd you guys meet?
In a group chat on Skype.
On a group chat on Skype? Okay. Have you met him in person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many times have you?
Once. We were going to move out together, and then my sister knew how hard I was working to save up money. I was working 60 plus hours a week. And in the meantime, she was just doing that behind my back.
After saving up $16,000 to pay off her car in full, Fatiha would often pick up extra hours to save for her future with Joseph. At least, until the past few months, she adds. There were less extra hours available, but she also had less motivation. The situation was getting complicated, she trails off. Kepsel offers more empathy again, before asking about her sister's advances towards Joseph in detail. Most of the time when they interacted, it was online, right in front of her. The detective validates her suspicions, and explains why she needs to know exactly what kind of communication she saw between them. Sometimes Fatiha would come home and find her sister asleep on the phone with Joseph on the other line, still awake and playing a game. Even now, it made her feel sick to her stomach with jealousy to think about.
And so you've been working for the past 3 years to try to save up to get a place with Joseph?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I first started, I paid off my car. That was $16,000. And then
When you first started working there?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then my goal was to pay off my car so that I don't have to worry about that while paying rent. And
Yeah.
And then the past year, I've mostly just been doing those extra hours.
For the past year?
Mhm. Except the past few months.
What do you mean the past few months? What happened?
That's when I started. I think there was less extra hours available. And
There
I
wasn't
also-
as much availability? Okay.
And I also had less motivation.
Motivation? Okay. You maybe felt like you were overworked or something else?
It was, the situation was getting complicated and...
With you and Joseph? Or, okay, I didn't know if you're talking about work or if you're talking about, yeah, okay. So, things were you were hitting some speed bumps in your relationship. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's understandable. I mean, if you're with someone for 5 years, I would assume there's always hard times, but, you do your best to work through it and get through it together, which it sounds like you tried very hard to do so. So, you had said that your sister, over the last year, has been making advanced movements towards Joseph and flirting. You said that she flirts with everyone. How exactly did they communicate that you know of?
Just every, texting, calling, playing games together, just doing anything that you would do with a normal couple.
Okay. And I guess, did you see these text messages or hear these phone calls? How do you know they happened?
She lives in the same room as me.
Sure.
And so then, it's obvious when they're playing together because I'll see them on the same game. It has, activity status on Discord. Or even if I'm at work, I can tell after knowing about it. And then, she would usually leave the room to call, and then during that period he doesn't text me either, and I just knew it was calling.
She would leave the room to call him? Okay, so you're not certain?
Oh no, I'm sure it's that she was calling him.
Okay. How do you
there
know?
were certain times
I mean, I definitely understand, the gut feeling, just knowing that, something's not right. I feel like every female has it. When something's just not right or you feel like your man's doing something that, he shouldn't be doing, we all get these feelings, and, most of the time we're not wrong. So I get that, but I'm saying, did you see on her phone his name, and then...
Yes. Sometimes I come home and I see they're sleeping on the phone together.
Okay.
I'll see. Or I'll hear, because sometimes it's she goes to sleep but he's playing. And he does that with me, usually, but then sometimes I'll be at work, so I come home late, and she's already sleeping, and then I see on her phone his number.
Do you know his number by heart? No. Okay.
I usually Skype call.
Fatiha's younger sister had told the detective that she also speaks to Joseph, but she explained that they're all in a server together, so Fatiha can see everything she says. Kepsel had been unfamiliar with Discord and how it worked until learning about it that day. Fatiha explained that her sister respects her relationship with Joseph and doesn't overstep those boundaries. She describes the different relationships she has with each of her siblings, and how this competitive nature and disrespect with Saima had a longer history than just the love triangle with Joseph.
Your other sister, she said that she also kind of communicates with Joseph as well, like through Discord, and like, so that's normal. Is that normal to you?
I can see their texts because we're in a server together.
Okay.
And they talk normally. My other sister, she respects that.
Okay.
So then she, doesn't overstep.
So they're like friends, and that's okay. Because, I mean, obviously, she would have never known Joseph had it not been for you, right?
Yeah.
Your younger sister. Right, for both sisters, right? So, okay. So I just wanted to understand, because it seems like Joseph kind of like is a gamer as well. And like, so the fact that he's, talking to both of your sisters, I just didn't understand, or I didn't know if there was like some sort of animosity with him talking to one versus the other, or how you felt about it.
What's animosity?
Like upset, like, or felt like kind of like, are both of your sisters feel, like, do you feel like both of your sisters are betraying you? I'm sorry.
My youngest, youngest sister, it's like a kind of a past record thing of, she's considerate towards me, and the other one is past record of just not considering, like, my belongings or just my feelings at all. Yeah. It's like been since we were little, like she just doesn't.
You guys are what, a year apart? Yeah. If that. So you're close in age, and have you always shared a room?
For a long time.
Okay, so you guys are pretty close. Like, she's your closest sibling in age, correct? Right. Okay.
The youngest sister, so she was like, I can see that she's just, being friendly. She's not flirting with him, but the other one is intentionally flirting with him.
Is there any, like, thing specific that you, like, would consider her flirting, so I can understand, like, an example? Or, like, what you consider flirting to be when it comes to the two of them? Like, what does she do?
I think sending texts about, like, how, like, oh, you're so handsome, heart emoji, things like that.
Okay.
Also, he's really honest still, so he tells me the things, too.
So he tells you what she says to him?
If I ask, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so you had mentioned that you can see your younger sister's messages with him because you share a server, but you can't see your...
We don't share any servers together.
Sima. Yeah, you can't see her. So you have to share in order to see each other's stuff? Like, do you have to actively share?
Because then you're, like, multiple people in a place versus, like, just one-on-one.
Okay.
So with him, he just does one-on-one, but it's not us three in any chat together.
Okay.
Kepsel summarizes what they've gone over so far to make sure she understands the details. It seems like everything had been a long time coming. So tell me what happened earlier this morning, she prompts. Fatiha says since it seemed like there was no end to this, and that she was past the point where she was okay with it, she didn't want them to be together at all. The deliberate actions of her sister hurt too much. It just made me hate her, Fatiha discloses. She rambles into a discussion she later had with her younger sister, but here Fatiha contradicts her 911 call. She had been exhausted after the murder, and once she was sure her sister was dead, only then did she take a nap.
So your sister has been essentially trying to steal your boyfriend, or your fiance, I'm sorry, and it's just kind of taken a toll on you. It's been a long time coming. You've been working very hard to become more independent with Joseph and to get your own place. And
which she had knowledge of.
And and I mean, that room's small, so I'm sure there's, whatever you do, she knows, and whatever she does, you know. So it's just been a long time coming. And so tell me what happened earlier this morning.
I kind of decided that I would rather, since I thought there was no end to it, and then things had already, like, gotten past the point of me, like, that I was past the point that I was okay with. To be honest, I didn't want them together at all. Just the fact knowing that she knew everything and was doing it intentionally. Like, if it was like some other situation, some other way it folded out, I probably could have taken it normally, but this was just deliberate and it hurt too much. And it just made me hate her. And I figured that I don't want them together, but also if I did anything, he'd probably hate me anyway too. So I was going to just do both of us. But my youngest sister, there was a gap in the time because I felt sick after doing it, and I just needed a nap, so I took a nap. And I was already sure, like, she was gone. But then I took a nap, and then when I woke up, I was trying to just sort things out before going, but my youngest sister felt like something was going on, thought I was being weird. So then she came to check up on me. So I have a weak spot for her, so I let her in the room, and I told her everything. But she talked me out of it. So then I was like, okay. I called my older sister, and she told me I should call the ambulance. So, yeah, my youngest sister didn't want me to do anything.
Fatiha admits to ordering a set of daggers from Amazon a week or so ago. What was your reasoning for ordering it? The detective asks, resting her face in her palm and leaning in with full attention. She's been careful not to come across as judgmental with Fatiha, who feels safe enough to let all the evidence that will convict her later spill out with zero hesitation.
What weapon did you use?
Like a dagger.
Okay. Is it the one that was on the bed? Okay.
There
Where did you
was
get it
another one.
Okay.
On the desk. Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you order it, or did someone else? You ordered it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when?
Like a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay. And what was your reasoning for ordering it?
What I felt I had to do.
What you felt you had to do? So you've been thinking about this for a little bit?
I've had an impulse that I've been trying to put away, but it's just like, I didn't see any more options. I tried to be optimistic. I tried to do every other way. I tried waiting. I tried talking about it, and nothing was working.
When you say talking about it with who?
Both of them.
Joseph and...
I talked to a few of my friends about it too, but everyone just gives me this advice, we'll just leave him. I'm like, that's easy to say.
So you've been thinking about this for a while, but you were trying not to, and talk to people about it and compartmentalize to essentially talk yourself out of it. Kepsel clarifies, and Fatiha agrees. She was waiting for things to change, for them to stop, but they didn't. She could see Joseph distancing himself from her, which Fatiha blames on her sister influencing him. Joseph was fine with both of them in the picture, but her sister wanted him all to herself. I was kind of fine with that to an extent, but she was pushing it past the line, Fatiha explains. Sometimes she even locks her out of her room to talk to Joseph while Fatiha waits outside in the hallway. Even though her sister is dead, she speaks about her sister's disrespect in the present tense. She's still full of rage against her.
Was Joseph, was he complimenting her back? Was he doing these things that she was doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I feel like a lot of it comes from, he wanted her not to be sad. And she would request things, for example, like, oh, why don't you match profile pictures with me? You do that with her. And he kind of just wanted both of us to be happy. And then I could see her, because I know him, I know how he acts because of what, it's just things you observe. And I could see the difference, or like the influence, and like his mindset changing because he wants her to not be upset.
And she's upset because of what?
Because she wants him.
And he's with you. Okay.
And she wants it only them two, not me in the picture.
Right.
He's fine with both in the picture.
Okay.
So, and I kind of was, like, to an extent, but she was pushing it past the line.
Like, you were okay with them having, like, a friendship and, like, talking still and communicating, but you didn't want her to disrespect the relationship you had with Joseph, right? Okay. I'm not trying to put, like, any words in your mouth or anything. I'm just trying to understand and make sure I understand what you're telling me.
She was just going all out.
Okay.
And I told her not to do that, and she said she wouldn't. So she just always says things to make me stop talking, feels like. She just locks the door a lot sometimes.
Without you in it?
And then I can't come back in because she just wants to talk to him.
Kepsel is still curious if they were just playing games and texting each other, or if there was anything more specific about their interactions that gave her the impression that things were changing. Joseph had confided about the flirting and feelings between them, and that they say "I love you" to each other. They had problems almost right away when her sister started talking to him, so Fatiha told her to block him. But after she broke up with her boyfriend, she unblocked Joseph, and slowly things started to get romantic. She doesn't seem to blame Joseph at all. "I know how she is," Fatiha says multiple times about her sister, shifting all of the blame on Saima. "It was hard for Joseph," Fatiha defends, because he liked both of them.
So you knew of their relationship, and you told her basically, like, I want you to respect my, like, romantic relationship with Joseph, but you can still have a friendship with him. Is that true? Yes? Okay. And so that friendship for them consisted of, like...
It got past the point of a friendship.
In your eyes?
Because of what she wanted.
Did you hear her saying what she wanted? Like, what, or this is just what you felt?
She kind of told me, like...
Okay. What did he tell you? If you recall.
One example is he did admit that there was flirting, and that he said that...
He admitted there was flirting?
Yeah, that she says, "I love you."
She tells him that she loves him? Okay.
I think he started doing that too.
And when was this? When did he tell you all this stuff?
Well, different things came at different times, but it started October last year. I asked a lot of questions when I found out. And at that point, it was already like things kind of starting. Before that was when they were friends.
Okay. How long have they, because you're...
Kind of on and off, because, like, there was a time when, I don't know, I just didn't want her talking to him because I know how she is, so I told her to block him. But then she unblocked him. And they were still friends, but then when I told her not to talk to him, and she did stop talking to him, but then she went back without asking me because of her breakup with her boyfriend.
When did she, that's what I was going to ask, when did she break up with her boyfriend?
I think it was 2020, maybe early 2020. I know when she started feeling, she was the one who broke up with him. That's also what bothers me. She did it. She spent months not looking back at him, and then he wanted her the whole time. Only at the last second when he finally moved on, she just felt like, well, you moved on. But she was the one who broke up with him. And then that happened in maybe June, like that.
Okay.
Of 2020.
But October of last year is when things, like, got worse. Like, when she tried to take their friendship to another level, even though you are with Joseph. Okay. And do you feel like Joseph, like, started to have feelings for her, and that's why it's been difficult these last, and that's what you've been trying to work through and get on better terms with him for. Okay.
Because he liked both of us.
Yeah, that's difficult.
And then at some point I just felt it was like more her. That was after I tried waiting for, because I know she doesn't want me in the picture, so I figured maybe she should just leave when she realizes that he's not going to just be with her. But then he felt guilty.
He felt guilty for
Doing that to me.
Okay.
And then it
like leaving you? Or
even before he left me, that was the reason he kind of left me. Because it was more complicated because he felt guilty. So then he wasn't, like, he liked me, but he just felt bad.
Because he liked the both of you at the same time?
Mm-hmm. He wanted to leave both of us, but she...
At one point, the two of them took a break and agreed to be friends, while Joseph continued to talk to Sima romantically. That's difficult, Kepsel empathizes. The best way to keep Fatiha talking is to allow her to fully be the victim without any pushback on what might have been done differently. But Kepsel notes that she's calling Joseph her fiancé, so clearly at some point the two of them decided to get back together. Fatiha struggles to explain this because the truth is they aren't together. She just refused to let go of this dream. We weren't going to stop talking to each other, Fatiha explains. But you technically weren't together? Kepsel clarifies. Technically, Fatiha agrees. He felt guilty and bad for hurting her, she defends him again. As he should, the detective says. She's seen plenty of these cases before. There's no point in lecturing Fatiha on what she could have done. As far as she was concerned, rationality could no longer be spared, and murder was the only way out of this situation.
So did you guys, have a little, you said June?
Yeah.
Did you have a little breakup,
yeah.
or?
A little break, yeah.
A little break.
Where we were okay, just kind of like friends.
And he continued to talk to Simon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's difficult. And then, I guess, how did you guys reconcile, or, because you're telling me that he's your fiancé, so obviously you guys got back together. Do you remember, when, or, how that came about?
Because you mean, when it came, it was, it didn't come back, but he basically was for most of it.
Okay.
But we were still gonna, we weren't gonna stop talking to each other.
Okay. But you technically weren't together?
Technically.
Okay. Was he with your sister?
Not yet.
Or he was not,
but there was, a wait, a break, and then see how it plays out.
Okay, so a break from both of you.
Mm-hmm. And then there was potential of what she wanted.
Okay. And that's kind of when you couldn't talk yourself out of the things. Okay, so in June, this kind of happened, the complicated stuff. And it's been going on ever since. But he still talks to both of you? In just a friendly way, or just
It feels like he's nicer to her than me.
He was being nicer to her than you? Okay.
Because with me, he feels guilty.
He feels guilty, why? Because he's hurting you? Or he feels guilty because he likes her, or, I'm sorry.
Kind of both.
As he should. It's kind of not really nice, but... Okay. I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm just, super curious, obviously, and I don't know you, and I don't know Joseph, and I just want to try to understand, I just want to try to understand the most I can. I'm not, I'm not trying to, pry too much, but I'm just trying to make sure I make sense of it and that I understand because it's important.
Kepsel asks about her phone call with Joseph before the 911 call. What was the extent of that conversation? He didn't really understand, but he was disappointed. And now he's not going to talk to me, Fatiha ends quietly. She's not sad about her sister being dead, but she is visibly sad mentioning this. Even though she already planned for that to happen, it still hurts. She didn't plan on her sister talking her out of suicide, or having to live with this aftermath of losing Joseph for good.
So, did you talk to Joseph at all today? Tonight? Yes? And that was before you had called for an ambulance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What exactly, what was the extent of that conversation?
I told him what I did.
Okay.
He didn't understand. He thought I could have done, and I felt like I didn't have much options.
Right.
But he felt like I should have talked about it and there was options, and I told him I tried talking about it. I just didn't at the specific extent, but I did do everything. Tried talking about it multiple times. Told him how it made me feel and how I just wanted it, to be gone. But he didn't really understand, and he was really disappointed, and no, he's not gonna talk to me.
Sorry.
Which I kind of already planned for, that he would feel, but I didn't expect my sister to talk to me about it.
Back to the incident, Kepsel asks about why she did it at 4:30 in the morning. Last night, Sima went to bed around 3 a.m., and Fatiha stayed awake until she was sure everyone else in the house was fast asleep too. She stabbed her sister and went to sleep around 5. Sima had woken up during the attack. Fatiha's legs and arms are crossed as she chuckles while describing what she said when she stabbed her multiple times in the heart. "Did you say anything to her?" the detective asks. "I said stop because she was moving too much. That's all," Fatiha answers. "You've been battling this since you ordered the knives, and you stabbed her in the heart. I feel like that meant something to you, right?" she asks. Fatiha nods in agreement.
Was your sister asleep?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She never woke up?
Well, she did.
Okay. When it was happening? Okay. Do you remember how many times you used the knife?
3 or 4.
Do you remember where on her body?
Heart.
Her heart? Okay. I'm assuming that's where you wanted? Okay. Do you have any injuries? Did you get hurt? And you said she woke up? Okay. Did she say anything?
What the fuck? And also help.
Did you say anything to her?
I said stop, because she was moving too much. That was all.
Okay. And you said that you've been battling with this since you had ordered the knives. That's how. So you kind of have thought about this before, and you stabbed her in her heart. I feel like that meant something to you, right? Yeah.
The detective asks if she's ever been to the doctors. For the sake of the investigation, they obviously want to know if there's any mental health history to be aware of. Other than the dentist, she's never really had much of a reason to visit the doctor. Then Kepsel asks about school, how she did as a student. Fatiha tells her she's smart and got good grades. As far as social patterns go, Fatiha was introverted but had no issues there, and no patterns of violence, ever. She only got in trouble once during high school, when she tried to leave school early on her birthday. Kepsel makes a joke about how that's barely anything, her trying to play hooky one time and not even doing it. Fatiha laughs along, feeling relaxed. I'm the quiet kid. Nobody has a reason to dislike me because I'm nice, Fatiha says. That's how your sister described you too, as nice, Kepsel smiles. Kepsel glances down at her bullet point notes and asks, so, I guess, how are you feeling right now? Fatiha tells her she's kind of sad. She wasn't planning on being here for all of this, the complicated and sterile aftermath of her crime. I kept wondering if maybe it was a bad choice. Her surface-level introspection will only allow her to go so far in this present moment, but there's a frightening hint of reality that waits around the bend, and it shows in what Fatiha says next.
I guess, how do you feel right now?
Kind of sad that, well, I didn't plan on being here for the aftermath, but then I knew what it would be that he wouldn't want to talk to me, so I'm kind of sad that he sees me the way he does now.
That Joseph sees you the way he does, yeah.
And I keep wondering if maybe it was a bad choice. But I thought about it and I just did it because of reasons.
Right, yeah, reasons that we've talked about.
And then those reasons are harder to see now that it's over with. Just because there's a sense of getting it over with.
Right. Okay, that makes...
So then it makes me wonder if it was after the fact.
Right.
Fatiha explains that she never left her bedroom after the murder. While texting her younger sister, who was downstairs, she started to feel sentimental, saying that she was the best, and thanking her for being the way that she was. And as sweet as this is, her sister found it weird, and kept asking what was going on with her. Fatiha wanted to leave an explanation for later, so she was planning to edit a previously sent text message, hoping it wouldn't give her sister a notification. But that didn't work out, and she accidentally told her what she did. What was your reasoning for wanting to kill yourself? Kepsel asks. It felt like everything was already ruined and it was only going to get worse, Fatiha tells her. Foolishly, there had still been the smallest part of her that had hoped maybe once Sima was out of the picture, Joseph would not only find a way to forgive her, but choose her. Not only was she wrong about that, but she knew how crazy and extreme that would make her look. Everyone would see me a certain way because they don't understand the situation, she adds. She's never been suicidal, never hurt herself before, never even imagined doing such a thing to herself or another person. Sometimes it had even scared her, how much she cared about Joseph. I don't have much passion for anything, but he was one of the only things I did have passion for, so my feelings were just heightened, Fatiha explains.
I guess, what was your reasoning for wanting to kill yourself?
That it felt like everything was already ruined and that it was only going to get worse.
Things with you and Joseph were already ruined? Okay.
And then there's just everyone would see me a certain way because they don't understand the situation.
Right. Okay. Have you ever turned to harm yourself?
I didn't expect.
You did what?
I didn't ever imagine doing anything like that to me or someone else.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't really have much passion for anything, but he was one of the only things I did have passion for, so my feelings about everything were just heightened.
Mm-hmm.
Kepsel asks if she thinks there's anything else important she should know or understand, but Fatiha can't think of anything else to add. The detective asks about logistics like her Amazon, Discord, email usernames, and passwords. Are you required to look through my messages? Fatiha asks nervously. Capsule explains that she has to. Whether it will be done with her permission or with a search warrant, it's part of the investigation. Fatiha doesn't have much hesitation about answering her questions. She's just embarrassed about it all. The pleading, the threats, the rejections, the lovey-dovey nicknames and pledges of devotion to a boy who obviously didn't care about her in the way she cared about him. Somehow all of that was still more dehumanizing than have everyone know she killed her own sister. At this point, she gives the detective only a limited amount of information because she's embarrassed. But Fatiha also doesn't realize that privacy is a privilege, and she lost that once the handcuffs were snapped around her wrists.
And then, do you know your username for Discord?
Is it required to look through my messages?
No. I'm just asking what your username is for the Discord. I mean, I'll be real honest, though. I'm probably going to look through them. It just depends on how I do so, whether it's through a search warrant or not, which I would probably do a search warrant anyways. But it's just easier to find your information this way. So it's just part of the investigation.
Because the talk was over call.
With Joseph today? Or wait?
Oh, that time and, like the breakup thingy. That was both over call. Most of the important stuff is over call.
Gotcha. Did you send, like, pictures of yourself or something that you, like, what's your hesitation? Why you don't want me to see the messages? Because, I mean, I'll be real honest, you've been pretty straight up about everything, so I'm curious why you feel, like, hesitating or not wanting me to see it.
One, I'm not sure if there's pictures.
Okay.
But two, it's embarrassing.
Well, I'm not here to judge you, okay? I'm here to just kind of understand. Okay, so do you want to give me the information or no?
Yeah. Is it fine if no?
It's totally up to you.
Then no.
Capsule asks why she purchased 2 daggers, and Fatiha says she didn't want to use the same knife to kill herself. She asks if the conversation she had with her sister downstairs was through normal texting or another app. It was normal texting, Fatiha says, adding that she didn't talk to anyone about it beforehand because she knew they would try to stop her. The only reason her sister came upstairs was because of the slip-up message she accidentally sent her too soon. It's also possible that Fatiha had little to no desire to carry out a suicide when death was obviously so final. If she was dead, there was absolutely no way that she would ever convince Joseph to forgive her. And the self-importance she felt in that love triangle translated to her younger sister as well. She likes me the most out of all of our siblings. We hang out a lot, Fatiha tells Capsule, expressing guilt at the thought of leaving her behind. And in her own naive way, she wasn't sure what to expect from the legal system either. Maybe they would understand that she was pushed to the brink, that she seemingly had no other choice. She still thinks there's a good chance she's going home.
And the dagger that's on the bed, it's the all-black one, right? And then you said it's also on the desk? Okay, and it came like in a 2-pack?
I got 2.
You purchased 2. Okay, what was the reasoning behind purchasing 2?
I just didn't feel comfortable using a used one.
Oh, okay. So you thought to...
Give up.
Okay, this whole time? Or the...
When I made my mind up about it.
Okay. But your sister, you said, was messaging you? Was she messaging you on, like, just regular text messages, or?
Yes.
Okay. And that's another reason. So I obviously have to see, like, that conversation and what all took place.
Like that she didn't know about it.
Right, yeah.
I didn't talk to anyone about it because I knew they would try to stop me. And I knew that, like, I knew her especially, that I felt really bad because she likes me the most out of the siblings and we hang out a lot. And, I just wanted to give her like a note, but, and I told her to look at it later. But that's why I was gonna, like, put it somewhere where it's not, like, in front of everything, and then tell her to scroll up and look at it. But like I said, I accidentally sent it as a message, so it came up as a notification in like the beginning of it. Yeah, kind of gave it away what it was. But that plus the fact that she kind of just thought I was being different. She didn't say that. She just kind of assumed like that I was acting a little off. But then that last thing gave it away. But I didn't tell her directly. I just told her when she wanted to come in the room because I was thinking like, she's already here telling me she wants to come in already suspecting. Then if I turned her away now, she probably would have just felt like I was too late or something, and I would have felt worse than her just being in another room and looking at it later. But I wanted to at least tell her in some way, just not at a time where she could try to convince me otherwise.
But she was able to.
They talk a bit about Joseph. Fatiha describes what he looks like. Japanese American with long dark hair and pale skin. He hasn't sent any pictures in, the last year, but he's never been big on sending pictures. He doesn't like the way he looks, Fatiha explains. She adds that his hair is long because he's so busy he doesn't have a chance to stop by his aunt's house where he prefers to get a cut. He's labeled in her phone as Bubby, a cute pet name they both called each other. Once Kepsel is done wrapping up, she makes it a point to ask her partner Carlos if he's got anything to add as well. Having quietly observed the interrogation in the corner of the room, he has just a few points to double-check. You mentioned he's your fiancé. When was the engagement date? But Fatiha says maybe 2019, maybe 2020, in July. What date? He asks again, and Fatiha tries to remember. Oh, you don't know your date. You're gonna get in trouble, Carlos teases, and Fatiha lets out a haunting giggle, saying Joseph doesn't know it either. Fatiha says it was June 28th. So that would make you 4 years engaged? Carlos clarifies, and Fatiha says yeah. Carlos reassures her that they aren't here to judge her, just understand. He also wants to know why Fatiha chose 4:30 in the morning to do this. She tells him that was the quietest time, when everyone was asleep. She wanted to do it a bit earlier, but her brother had still been awake. When exactly did you make your mind up? Carlos asks. But Fatiha can't really pinpoint a moment when she decided for sure. Even up until it happened, it felt like a manic pendulum swinging from one option to the other. Carlos asks if she's a righty or a lefty, and she says she's a righty, but notes that she used her left hand for support on top of the knife handle as well. Fatiha clenches her fist and mimics holding the dagger, how she would have been hovering it directly over her chest. Some might be slightly at an angle because she moved, Fatiha explains. She liked that the weapon had grooves for her to hold it comfortably, as she was worried about wounding her own hand during the attack. Carlos clarifies that she's the only one with access to her Amazon account, that she planned all of this on her own, and that her parents and siblings had no prior knowledge. What happened when she woke up? He asks. Apparently Saima kept moving around and told Fatiha to stop before she stabbed her deep into the heart. When it was over, Fatiha was worried that she had woken up the whole house. I felt nauseous, Fatiha tells him, because a part of her still didn't feel like it was right. Carlos plays the empathy card with her, saying he understands. It's just one of those crazy things. You were hurt. Nobody is here to judge you, he assures her.
Carlos?
Yes. My name is Carlos. Obviously, I was following everything that you were saying. I was just kind of sitting in the background, kind of looking at a little more information and stuff like that. Okay. You mentioned a fiance. Were you guys engaged?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when is your engagement date?
19. Maybe 2018. July.
July. What date? What number?
Oh,
You don't know your July date.
hold on.
Oh, you gotta get it.
He doesn't know either. It was, actually, no, it wasn't July, it was June 28th.
What number? What day?
28th.
Oh, the 28th. June 28th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
2018, just so I'm right.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Alright, so that will make you 4 years engaged? Yeah? Okay. And, obviously, like she told you, we're not here to judge or anything like that. We're here to understand what happened, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you taking the time to explain it to us, it makes a lot more sense. Okay. And then you mentioned that you were planning to do it at 4. And you can mention that you had already made your mind. When exactly did you make your mind up? Like you said, I'm going to go through with this. When did you told yourself we're going to do this?
I kept, even when I was thinking that, it was like still, maybe I shouldn't, but when I thought that I was ready.
So essentially from 2 weeks ago, you were kind of like trying to figure out like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to do this. I'm just trying to figure out how am I going to do this. Okay. I just want to make sure I understood. And then, are you a righty or are you a lefty?
Right.
You're a righty. Okay. And then, you mentioned that, obviously, she had like maybe like 3 or 4 injuries, on the heart. Can you just tell me like, because obviously I just need to figure out like how those injuries are going to be showing. Like, was the knife like this? Was it like this?
Straight like this, but maybe some might be like slightly, at an angle.
Okay.
Because she moved.
Okay.
But maybe like this.
Okay. Like you were holding the knife like this. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got that right. And then.
No, with both hands actually.
Oh, both hands. Okay. And you didn't cut yourself or anything like that? Okay. Like the handle was long enough? Because you have small hands, so maybe just.
Yeah.
I just want to make
It
sure.
has a skip enough too, and it has like the hilt, the little ones at the side that helps.
Okay. I see. And then your Amazon account. You mentioned that you're the only one that uses it, right? Like nobody else has access to that or anything like that. And then it's just something that we need to ask. Obviously, you planned this on your own. Like nobody helped you or anything like that. Your parents had no knowledge about this, or any other siblings or anything like that. And you mentioned that you didn't want to tell anybody because you knew they were going to talk you out of it. Correct? I just want to make sure I got that right. You mentioned that she woke up. Was it at the very first stab that she woke up? Okay. What happened as soon as you were done? What were you thinking?
Part of me still didn't feel like it was right, but also worried because I was going to do me next. And so I was just thinking like it was a little too much.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand. Obviously, it's one of those things. You were hurt, right? I mean, like I said, nobody's here to judge you or anything like that. It's one of those things that we do crazy things when we're in love, right? It's even the same and stuff.
Kepsel tries to map out a mini timeline with what Fatiha has told her, noting when everyone usually goes to bed in the house. Fatiha got up around 5 p.m. on Sunday, stayed up all night until she stabbed her sister at 4:30 in the morning, and then slept for a few hours. About 11 hours later, Fatiha notes without hesitation. It was normal for their bedroom door to be closed and even locked, but when Fatiha didn't leave the room for an entire day, both her sister and mother kept knocking to check on her every so often. Kepsel and Carlos share a glance, wordlessly checking if there's anything else to ask. Fatiha had been extremely forthcoming, and for now, they've covered all of the bases they can. Kepsel asks her if she's been honest, and Fatiha nods. She checks if Fatiha wants more water, and she says yes, also asking if there's any food because she hasn't eaten in over a day. Carlos offers to grab her something from a vending machine. Once she's processed, she'll be heading to jail where she can also have a meal. "Will you try reaching out to him?" Fatiha asks, nervously swinging her crossed leg up and down in the air. Of course, Joseph will definitely be interviewed as soon as possible to add any missing elements and verify some of the things that Fatiha has told them. "Is there anything that you want me to tell him?" Carlos offers. They even say she can write him a letter if she wants to. But she doesn't have anything to say to him. He's already said he never wants to speak to her again anyway. She knows it's a lost cause. "Also, when will I get to use my phone again?" she asks, displaying her ignorance about the enormity of what she's done and the consequences to follow. Kepsel tells her that they have to take it as part of the investigation. "Will I get it back?" Fatiha wonders, and Kepsel says, maybe one day," explaining that it depends on where the investigation goes. Fatiha notes that a lot of the most important things she's said to people were during phone calls, not text messages. She thinks about how clueless Joseph acted when she called him last, how he claimed to have no idea that she felt so strongly in the way that she did. "Will you just ask him his side of it?" Because I know he doesn't understand it in the same way I did. He has a bad memory and forgets important talks, Fatiha warns Kepsel. The detective nods, telling her that she understands they don't see eye to eye on things, and that a male's perspective will probably never be the same as a female's perspective, and that's just life. I can see the influence on him. He can't see it, Fatiha says. As far as Fatiha is concerned, both of them are victims, and Saima is still the one to blame, who has something to answer for. And it's a fitting bookend for the interrogation, which started with Fatiha putting the blame on her sister.
Okay. All right, can I get you any more water? Yeah? Okay.
Is there any food? I haven't been eating in over a day.
Are you okay with snacks? There's not like food here per se, but I can probably get you a snack.
A vending machine snack
Like
or
a vending
something.
machine,
Is
would
okay?
that be good?
Is there a preference, like, or are you allergic to anything?
Yeah.
No?
I kind of want something savory.
Savory? What does that mean? Is that like chocolate?
Like salty.
Salty, okay.
Not
Okay.
sweet, basically.
Not sweet. Okay. We can see if there's something available.
Yeah, the vending machine. Yeah, I can check for you. I know they have a lot of candy, but I doubt you want candy. But
Chips, I think, are fun.
Chips. Okay.
I like most chips. Will you try reaching out to him?
I will actually, yeah, but not tonight. But I will have to talk to him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
is there, since we're eventually going to talk to him, is there anything you want me to tell him? Or do you want to, like,
Do you want to write him
send
a
him a
letter?
letter or something? Or like whatever makes you feel more comfortable. I feel like letters are like a little more personal, but
Yeah. I think it's just wondering because it might bother him. Or maybe he'll see I'm calling or something and be like, I told you not to come talk to me.
yeah. But I mean, we need to make contact with him. And like I said, if there's anything you want me to relay to him, I'll be more than happy to do that for you.
I don't think
There's nothing you want to tell him?
there's.
All right, well, if you think of something, just let me know, okay?
We're going to get that stuff for you, get you some more water.
Also, when will I get to use my phone again?
I have to take your phone. As part of the investigation, I have to take your phone. I'll be writing a search warrant for the judge, so the judge will tell me, like, hey, yes, you have probable cause to go into her phone, and then we're going to go into it and download it and go from there. But if you need, like, numbers or something from it, I can get you those numbers.
But will I get it back?
Maybe one day.
When is?
Well, I don't know. It just kind of depends on where the investigation goes and kind of what happens. Yeah. So you might.
So you're gonna look through which things?
Probably everything, to be honest. Every form of communication, just to see who you may have talked to. I mean, you've been pretty open with us, but so this is kind of how this works. So someone will tell you a story. They'll tell you, their side of the story, and then there's another side of the story, and then somewhere in the middle, we normally find what we call, the truth. So I'm not saying that you lied, but I can't take your word for it. I have to back it up with evidence. I have to corroborate it, which means that I have to prove that what you're telling me, what you sat here and told me, is true and accurate. And the way I do that is I go through people's phones. I just have to corroborate it. I can't take your word for it, even though I want to, and I believe you, and I don't feel like you lied to me, but I can't just take people's word for it in this line of work. I have to corroborate everything that is told to me, if I can. So if I can corroborate it, I will. If I can't, then it's just kind of your word.
I just feel like most of the information isn't on the text. It's on the calls, like, really, the important stuff is called about. Even between them two.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's just part of the investigation. I honestly take everyone's phone. And then, when it can be released, it's released. But I just don't have the answer. Because, I'm the lead investigator. I'm not the state attorney or anything like that. So at the end of the day, the state attorney has the final say on what happens. Okay? But I can get you numbers if you need anything from it. You can't have it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions before we get you some water and hopefully find you some chips?
Will you just ask him, like, his side of it?
Joseph? Yeah.
Okay. Because I know he doesn't understand it the same way I did. From the last call, he wasn't agreeing that, like, he thinks I forgot some of the important calls when we talked about stuff, but to me it's obvious that he forgets important talks. He has a bad memory. So the things that I see as reoccurring to him, it might seem like not there, or like once. We just didn't quite see the level the last call.
Yeah, you didn't, like, see eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. And, I mean, to be honest, like, a male's perspective on something versus a female's is probably never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just life.
Especially when I feel like I can see the influence on him. He can't see it because he's not being influenced.
Sure.
So things like that.
After speaking with Joseph over the phone, both detectives would travel to North Carolina and interview him in person. Sitting in a car outside his apartment building, Detective Kepsel notes that it's 1:19 p.m. on October 10th, 2022, before asking him to elaborate on the things they already touched base about during the phone call. Joseph warns that he has a splotchy memory at best, and goes on to describe meeting Fatiha online in either 2016 or 2017. He likes talking to new people, and after going through old group chats on Skype, he saw she was one of the people talking and felt like striking up a one-on-one conversation with her. At times he uses Samya and Fatiha interchangeably. He'll try to clarify this as best he can when he forgets, so the detective knows which sister he's talking about. He speaks slowly and takes his time to consider what he's going to say next. Fatiha was very shy at first, embarrassed to send pictures or share that she was Muslim. But soon the two of them began having long phone conversations, talking about pretty much everything and anything. Joseph enjoyed it, but he was also worried because he could tell that Fatiha wanted this connection to become something more permanent, and Joseph had a long-term plan to end his life in a few years. Knowing this beforehand, he still sought out Fatiha, and says that even though he tried to pull away, she talked him into staying in touch because it was too hard on her, and she figured if he was going to take his own life, at least this way, she would have as much time with him as possible. As kind and honest as Joseph portrays himself to be, it's an emotionally manipulative situation that understandably became very stressful for Fatiha. She felt like she had a duty to save his life.
All right, so we spoke on the phone last week in reference to having a conversation. I would like to understand from your point of view the relationship that you had with both Fatiha, and I believe you call her something else, and then also the relationship you had with Sima, right?
Yes.
Sima.
Yes.
Okay. So if you don't mind kind of explaining, even like, and what I mean by explaining, like, when did you meet Fatiha? Like, what was your relationship? When did you meet Sima? What was your relationship type deal?
Well, I have a very splotchy memory at best. Samya, or Fatiha, really was the one remembering everything for me. Samya.
Okay. How would you spell that?
Samya.
Samya. Don't you spell Simon?
Sima's Sayma. I know it's very similar.
Very similar. Okay. I just want to make sure I had the spelling correct. Okay, so tell me the memory that you do have of you and Fatiha. How'd you meet? Start there.
It was, I want to say around 2016, maybe 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And I was in a rough spot mentally. I was really just, I like talking to new people and just kind of interacting with new people. and so I was looking through some old group chats I was in on Skype, I believe.
Okay.
And she was one of them, and we started talking, and I've done this a couple times before, and they don't normally go anywhere really, but it was just very, I guess, natural. I mean, I could tell immediately we're very similar mentally.
Okay.
Personality-wise, and I mean, we mostly texted at the time. She was still very shy to be on the phone and stuff and show her face and things like that, which I would find out later is because she was, I guess, wary or embarrassed about being Muslim and stuff online. She was just kind of very anxious about people knowing that she's Muslim online and stuff.
Okay.
We started calling and talking over the phone, and we talked a whole lot. At one point, I really did enjoy talking to her, and yeah, I could tell she really enjoyed talking to me. That I was starting to get the feeling that it was gonna be something more permanent for her, or I guess would want me to be more of a part in her life. And especially at this time, my kind of life plan at the time was to end my own life in a couple of years. And, she was a really great person, really funny and really sweet, and I didn't want to drag her kind of down that road with me. And so I tried breaking things off with her for a while, but also I kind of, I guess, did it sloppily because she also didn't really have any friends at the time, and so I tried introducing her to my friends so that she would have some friends, but then it turned into a thing where, I'm trying to let her go, and she's really upset about it, and I guess basically she wouldn't let me go.
Okay. Was this all in 2016, 2017, or was this later, years later?
I would say this was all around recent. I talked with her I'd say we met around 16 and maybe around 17.
Okay.
This kind of stuff happened.
And you're saying recently you were trying to let her go?
No. Back then.
Oh, okay.
And I gave up on that. In the end, she convinced me that.
Okay. To stay together.
Yes, and I told her, because I always tried to be upfront about things, and I always had this weird, I guess, unusual, or I guess more than average kind of distaste for lying, I guess, even small lies.
You don't like it?
I don't like lies.
Okay.
And so, I told her, it's like, hey, I told her, why I was trying not to talk to her anymore. I was like, hey, regardless of whether we're talking or not, over these next few years, I'm probably still going to do it, and we talked, and it ended with her saying, it's like, all right, but, at least, I'll be there before you do it. And I guess I just, I don't know, I guess I just got talked into thinking that was fine. We talked for a while. Maybe 2 more years, 3 more years maybe, till 2019.
They talked for a couple more years, until 2019, and that's when he met Saima over text. He can't remember when or how. Maybe it was the 3 of them in a group chat, and then he spoke with Fatiha's sister one-on-one. I told Fatiha from the beginning that I wasn't looking for anything serious or official. I was just planning to enjoy myself for the next couple of years and then disappear. So I just did whatever I felt like, basically. I started talking with her sister. At the time, it was just like, oh, she's cool, she's fun to talk to. Fatiha wasn't aware that they were talking this way, but Joseph makes it sound harmless. There wasn't any feelings between them. Not yet, anyway. Everyone they hung out with online assumed Fatiha and Joseph were a thing. It kind of was for a while, now that I'm remembering it, Joseph says. I told her, look, you really can leave. You should leave. I'm not going to be much for you. I don't have anything to give you. But Fatiha told him that she just really liked him being in her life. At some point around 2020, he stopped talking to Sima for a while, and they didn't get in touch again until later on, when she was going through a breakup around May 2021. Joseph claims that he was just helping her get through a hard time. He apologizes for hopping from one thing to another, but Kepsel assures him that it's fine. She can piece it together. Joseph is being interviewed, not interrogated. He's not guilty of any crime. But both detectives will still be paying attention to information and building their own timeline of events as he goes through the details. That's a key skill set for successful evidence gathering. Every single person involved in this investigation, including Fatiha, has actually made information gathering extremely easy. A little rearranging of dates and times is low-effort work for both detectives, who are used to people attempting to throw them off their trail with confusing side tangents, timeline jumping, or red herrings. Joseph tells her that he and Fatiha were still saying things like, I love you to each other. Then Joseph stopped saying it. He didn't want to feel like he was lying, so he came clean to her about what was happening. I guess that was sort of the decline in how close we were, he notes. Coincidentally, this is also around the time when he started to have feelings for her sister. He rambles a bit about feeling badly, how hard of a worker Fatiha was, and why he wasn't doing anything before their plans to move in together. Kepsel wants to clarify those plans, and Joseph says he's going to get into that. He's about to continue rambling for 20 minutes before the detective will speak again. He's about to tell them that he was figuring out a way to date both girls, to still secure a place to live with Fatiha, but hopefully have the chance to explore the feelings he had for her sister. He's picking and choosing his words carefully, which makes sense. It was naive, selfish, and both girls were not happy at all with him suggesting that, especially Sima. Fatiha was so desperate to keep Joseph's attention that eventually she was willing to put up with that option. But in reality, Joseph wasn't romantically interested in her. He just wanted to continue their original plan of having a place to live while he built his life there in Florida. He slightly contradicts himself about having to come clean with Fatiha about Sima. He mentions that she discovered Spotify playlists they were making for each other. Joseph reminds the detectives about his plan to commit suicide eventually, but says that during this time of growing feelings for Sima, he was thinking that it wouldn't be so bad to live longer. It would be such a waste, to amount to nothing, to leave this world for absolutely no reason at all. He felt like him living longer would benefit everyone, that he could do them a favor by living and being in a polyamorous relationship with the both of them. Of course, both of them are way too possessive for that, he adds. There was a time when Sima wanted to leave, but Joseph kept convincing her to stay. I thought that something could work out, he explains. It was hard for me to get the idea out of my mind that there could be something there.
It got to a point around, I think around 2019, where Sima started developing something for me. Okay. And I told her, it's like I'm not looking for anything, and so we stopped talking for a bit. And she, because I talked to Sima's sister, she knew that this wasn't really something that she wanted to mess with, and so we stopped talking, and we started talking again later. Maybe we stopped talking in 2020 and started talking again in 2021. I want to say maybe May, around there, because she was having issues with her ex-boyfriend. And at the time, it was just me, just helping her get through a hard time for her. She was in a lot of pain, I guess, and I just wanted to be there for her as a friend. And so we talked, and we talked all the time, and I think before this point, me and Samya, we would say stuff like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like going back and forth and jumping.
It's okay.
It's all coming like in pieces.
It's okay. I can piece it together.
Before this, in the beginning of me and Samya talking, we would say things like, like, I love you and all that, or basically the same, just in a different way. And I'd stopped saying it, and as I told you earlier, I'm very indecisive and very, I guess, skeptical of everything.
Okay.
And I'd say especially of myself, my mind, my intentions. I'm constantly doubting myself. And so I told her, I don't really feel comfortable saying these things and being that way because I don't know if I mean it the same way that you do, because I just don't know if I'm in the same place as you when it comes to this. And so I didn't want to, like I said, I hate lying. I didn't want it to feel like lying to her and myself. And so I told her, and I guess that was the start of the decline, I guess, and how close in that way we were to each other. But yeah, so after that, was when, around in May, when Sima and we were talking, and I was helping her get through her thing, and, we talked a lot, and, I started to really, enjoy her company and stuff, and it went from her being, I guess, just a friend that was fun to talk to like, I really care about her,
and that developed over, I would assume, time from like May of 2020. That took time to start caring for her and conversating, or do you feel like it was like a quick turnaround?
I'd say it took time. I mean, I think it just kept growing. I guess how much I realized that I cared for her.
Okay.
Then because there was a long time where I wanted to believe and convince myself that it wasn't anything, because I know how much that Samya cares for me and how much she's done for me, and and I really, because she was a very hard worker. She worked many hours, and I didn't get a job yet. The whole time the idea was we're gonna move in soon. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna with Fatiha, yeah. It's like, well, I'm gonna get my driver's license, and I'll get my GED, and then I'll go down there as soon as all that's done.
And were these plans that you had with her, like, recent plans?
Yes. I'll get into that, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember where it was and how to continue it. But yeah, I guess the more we talked, the more it grew into, like, I really want to talk to this person every day also. And she wasn't exactly the same as Samya, obviously. And I still, even though I was starting to accept how much I cared for her, I still knew that me and Samya, Fatiha, she was the most compatible person, I've ever met, in terms of, like, just everything. And for a while, I cared about them both a lot,
Right.
And for a while, I delusionally and stupidly tried to see if I could, and I told him about it. Well, after me and Sima, we're talking more and more, and Samya, I'll call her Fatiha from now on, so it doesn't sound as confusing. And Fatiha knew we were talking, but didn't know that it was going into something more. And I wasn't gonna say anything yet, because I was still thinking that I might just fizzle out and then, become nothing, as, like everything else does, just like doesn't really matter. But it didn't. And then Samya found out, I think over like a Spotify playlist or something that me and Sima had, and which was fine, because it was due time that we'd talk about it anyways. And so we talked about it, and like I said earlier, my plan was to kind of commit suicide after a couple of years, and that was my plan for a while. But during this time, I was thinking that it would be such a waste, or that would be, I guess, a waste, and just be very silly to have. During this time, when I was talking to both of them, I actually thought maybe it wouldn't be so bad living longer, and this is something that I didn't really feel before. And so in my head, it's like, well, if I live longer also, this would kind of benefit everyone. And for a short while, I tried to see if we could make a polygamous relationship. Obviously, both of them are, way too possessive over that, or for that, and this is normally not something any average person would be okay with it. And I knew that, and I did try to make it not so jarring for everyone, but it was never going to work. And there were multiple times when Saima wanted to leave. It's like, well, I know how much my sister likes you, and I feel bad, doing this to her. And I kept convincing her to stay because I thought that something could work out. It was hard to get the idea out of my mind that there might be something there. And this kind of went back and forth for a bit until it wasn't 2020 that she came out, it was 2021, I believe.
He feels like there might be some gaps of time he's missing, but then he talks about a couple of months ago. Joseph and Saima couldn't just be friends. Being so very self-doubtful, I wasn't completely sure, so I just wasn't sure, I guess. It got to a point where even if I had completely cut her off while I'm talking to Fatiha and living with her, I would be thinking about what could have been, if there was something more for me there, because Saima made me feel different. Even though, for years, he had told Fatiha that she was the most perfect partner for him, he had changed his mind. Her sister was. Joseph explained that it would be better for him to explore that with her first, just in case. And hey, if there's nothing there, they both get their closure, and then he gets to live comfortably with Fatiha. Recently, he had also told Fatiha that he planned to meet her sister in person, so they could ignite whatever spark might be there. Joseph playfully called it a trial period. But clearly there was nothing playful about this for Fatiha. She just wanted him to get it over with. But what little money he had saved up wouldn't help him get a place on his own. He describes telling this to Fatiha, that he didn't expect her to want to live together while he was dating her sister, but not being able to do that would postpone his arrival even further. And it sounds like Fatiha was so desperate to have whatever scraps from Joseph's table he would throw her, she even put up with that.
Well, I think me and Saima was gonna try just being friends and stuff, but neither of us could really shake out the idea, and because Saima knew that, or Saima, I guess, expressed how much she cared for me, but I, being, so very self-doubtful, I wasn't completely sure, and so I didn't want to. I just wasn't sure, I guess. And it got to a point where even if I just completely cut her off, while I'm talking to Fatiha and living with her and stuff, I'm going to be thinking about, what could have been and what if there was something more for me there, because Sama made me feel different, I guess. And even though Samir was so, I guess, objectively perfect for me, there was just something about Sama that made me feel something else, and it was something that I couldn't ignore. And so I had a talk with Fatiha about it a couple months ago, that I thought it would be in our best interest if I tried to start something with Saima first, because I mean, if I don't, I'm gonna be thinking about it. And I guess I would have felt really uncomfortable living with Fatiha, knowing how much she cares for me and stuff. But all the while, I'm thinking about someone else and what could have happened. And so I just felt really dishonest. And so I told her, I want to at least try. And if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Me and Sama get our closure from that. I get my closure and I get to, I guess, live more comfortably with Fatiha, knowing that it's fine, it was never going to work out anyways, and this was how it should have been. I don't know, it's just, the way I saw it at the time was just, any outcome that happened, it would have been for the better for most people, either getting closure or the ending they wanted. And so I was talking with her about it, and obviously they live in Florida, and I live up here, and I was planning on moving down there, but since me and Fatiha were, gonna move in and stuff, it would be weird for, us to move in and then for me to date her sister, and so we talked about it, and I was saying, we could talk online, but, we've been doing that for a while, and, we know that's fine, but I feel like just to see, we want to meet in person and stuff like that. And, obviously, Fatiha was saving up for the move, and I have some money. I haven't really been spending any of my money, and I was getting, I guess, myself in order so that I could just easily get a job, more easily get a job when I'm in Florida and pay my part. And I was telling her, since I don't really have anything right now, I'm going to have to, I know it would be weird for me to ask you, to let me live with you through this. And so, she was like, okay, I guess she wanted me to, just go ahead and get over with, because I was calling it a trial period, which is really not really a great way to put it. It was just just to see. Mm-hmm. And so I was telling her, it's gonna take a lot longer then, because I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna get a job up here, and I'll have to save up some money, and so it will take a lot longer. And she didn't like that, and and we kind of talked about it, and with her approval,
At one point, Joseph wanted to make sure Fatiha knew they were just friends, and he says they were both fine with that, with just being best friends. It wasn't that Fatiha needed to be his girlfriend. It was that Saima would get to be, and thus taking the #1 spot from her. I figured maybe when we move in, maybe I'll change my mind, maybe I'll realize that Fatiha is the one. So even in Joseph's own account of the situation, it really didn't matter how much he friend-zoned her. He was also still leading her on with future possibilities to always lessen the blow of the half-hearted rejections. I was just really banking on the move-in, he admits. He starts to add that he doesn't enjoy being a leech, but shakes it off out loud, realizing that's irrelevant. This whole trial period idea was floated a month or two ago. I knew she wasn't happy about it, but I figured for everyone to move on, this would be the best option to take, Joseph finishes. Kepsel summarizes the main points of what he's just said. He agrees and adds that he was just trying to be honest and do what he thought was right. As I'm trying to say this, it does sound, I guess, kinda manipulative. And yes, that it does. Because even though he keeps saying that it would be the best outcome for all three of them, the real person benefiting from every single option is Joseph.
We were friends, but I know it wasn't... I know we were more than that for her. So, during this talk, I was telling her, I want to make sure, me and you, and that, just officially, we're just friends. And I still didn't, I guess, but yeah, and we talked about it, and like neither of us were after like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That wasn't the thing we wanted. It was just each other's company. And like I was fine with just being best friends with her, and she would have been fine with it too, but I know it's the fact that there was someone else that would potentially take the number one spot from her that really made her upset. But I figured, you know, when we move in, that maybe I'll change my mind. When we move in, maybe I'll realize that Samia or Fatiha is the one. And I was really just, after we talked, you know, I was really just banking on the move, or on the move in, because I just thought at least everything would just be a lot clearer or make more sense then. And if not, and you know, if I'm just wasting time, you know, like I don't enjoy being a leech, and so I would have, you know, paid my share, and I guess that's irrelevant. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, this happened when we talked about this, the moving in and the trial period and all that. This was a month, 2 months ago. So somewhat recent. And I mean, I knew she wasn't happy about it, but I figured for everyone to move on, this would be, I guess, the best. In my head, I thought it would be the best option to take.
Okay, so it seemed like she was still wanted to move forward with your plan of the two of you to move in together, even though technically you were on a break and not in a romantic relationship. Yeah. And then you would continue to see what was potential with Simon. Yeah. Simon. Even though, like, you may have been living with her, like, yeah, but you wanted Fatiha to understand that. And so at first you were like, oh, well, maybe I'll stay here and figure that out. But she encouraged you to continue with your guys' original plan?
Well, she didn't encourage me. I mean, it was just me. I was just letting her know, you know, that I wouldn't expect her to be okay, you know, with us moving in, you know, while I try to see, you know, if there's a connection between me and her sister. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just a very...
and what did she say to that?
I mean, she didn't say something to that directly, because I was saying this, like, you know, I was saying how, you know, that's a very absurd thing to ask of someone, you know. Okay, so you're just like making a statement. Yes, okay. Well, but that paired with, I know that is absurd, and so, you know, like, I'm not gonna ask you or say that we should still move in, but just so you know, like, you know, I'm gonna take longer here than to go down there and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it, and I try to be honest about it, and I was just trying to do what I thought was right, but it, you know, as I'm trying to say this, it does sound, I guess, kind of manipulative, that I was telling her, you know, obviously I wouldn't expect any rational person to do that, but I also told her that I do think, you know, that there are some merits if we moved in anyways, because, you know, it would happen a lot sooner, you know, and get it over with, and that, you know, maybe I'll, after, you know, living with her, you know, I'll change my mind about something. I was just very confused and very doubting of myself, and I figured the sooner it happens, the less pain for everyone. and she agreed. I'm trying to think.
Kepsel asks if they ever met in person, and Joseph corroborates Fatiha's statements about summer 2019, when they met in a hotel during a family vacation in Miami. He's never met Saima. Their recent plans to meet as soon as possible was one of the triggering factors that added pressure to the situation. What are the main ways you communicated with Fatiha about this? Joseph tells her most of it was during phone calls. They talk nearly every single day on Discord through voice and messaging. With Saima, it was mostly just on the phone. He mentions a recent article that was shared in the media about the case. He's irritated that it focused so much on a specific video game. Gaming wasn't an element of this love triangle, and it wasn't a major way of communication or even a relevant detail about it. He's not even sure where that came from. So, did Saima consider you both to be in a relationship during this time of testing the waters? Joseph says no. Did Fatiha think you were in a relationship with Saima? And he says she shouldn't have. He told her that they were just going to try things if they met in person and were compatible. So for lack of better terms, you're single, you weren't with Fatiha, and he agrees. Now their friends online may have assumed they were together, because Fatiha had asked him if he could keep all this drama to himself. She would be mortified if everyone knew they ended things because he wanted her sister. Joseph said he had no problem respecting that. He was well aware that her family knew about him, and Saima also benefited from keeping it on the down low. Her siblings and parents wouldn't be too happy to hear that she was getting romantically involved with the same boy. Kepsel again goes over their methods of communication to make sure she doesn't miss anything they should be investigating for supporting evidence. Snapchat, Discord, texting. She brings up the fact that his Discord name is Shitstain, and she asks him, what's that about? Joseph skirts around the issue, explaining how you can change your Discord name easily at any time. But it's clear that he struggles with insecurity, with a lack of core values or meaning. And it's probable that this love triangle of two girls fighting over him had boosted his self-esteem more than he wants to admit now, given the outrageous and tragic outcome. Did you and Fatiha talk about getting married or being engaged or anything to that extent? Kepsel asks. Yes and no, Joseph says. He wasn't really interested in anything like that, but they flirted a lot. Joseph says he was under the assumption that it wasn't serious, at least not until some time went on. When they'd had that talk about the trial period with Saima, he made sure Fatiha knew they weren't really engaged. Even during her own interrogation, Fatiha herself admitted that they weren't really either, but she still had insisted on calling Joseph her fiancé. He assures Kepsel that if there's any inconsistencies with what she's said and what he's telling her, he's fine answering to that. I obviously never knew she had something like this in her, Joseph says. Kepsel uses this opportunity to dig more into that. Were there any signs or signals that she would hurt Saima? Joseph says no, but he notes that after the murder, one of the things Fatiha told him was that she'd had violent thoughts about her sister. If she had told him in a serious manner, if he had thought she meant something, he would have reacted to it. Things had been stressful, but mostly in the same way they always had been since Saima came into the picture. The only thing about Fatiha's behavior that changed recently was spending her money a lot more loosely than normal. And this may have been because Fatiha was having thoughts of suicide once killing her sister was over.
Would you, and I mean, I realistically know that your relationship with Fatiha and even Saima were, an online relationship. You met Fatiha once.
Mm-hmm.
Did you and Fatiha ever talk about, like, getting married or being engaged or anything to that extent?
Well, yes and no. I wasn't really interested in that kind of thing, but we flirted a lot between each other for a long time, me and Fatiha.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like a kind of thing where you call each other like hubby, husband, whatever, or like get engaged kind of thing. And I was under the assumption it was like a serious thing. But as like time went on, and I realized like, oh, I do think she's serious. We talked about it around the same time.
About being married or being engaged or
engaged.
Both? Okay. She thought she seemed to be more like.
I thought I started to get the impression that it was a lot more real to her, because I really don't even remember talking about this. But like I said, she remembers everything for me. I have very splotchy memory, and so I just took her word for it. But the more she talked about it, I was like, was I very serious at that time? And so she's taking it very seriously, and so we talked about it like 2 months ago, around the same time when we talked about just being friends, and I made sure it's like, hey, like we're not like engaged, right? That, and from my memory, she said yes, that she knows, and it wasn't like an official serious thing for her.
It's just things that you talked about in the past, and because of the way that she is, you felt like she took that conversation about being engaged or getting married more serious than you did back in the day, and then you had to like reiterate just to make sure you guys were both on the same page.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, it sounds kind of silly saying this because I know this is your job, but I mean, if there's any, I guess, inconsistencies, with what I'm saying and what she's saying, like, I'm fine with answering them, because I obviously never knew she had something like this in her, but
that's basically the kind of the next question is, did she ever talk to you about wanting to cause her sister harm?
Not...
Even if it was a joke? Because it sounds like you said they're possessive. Like, she...
Yes.
So realistically, like, she probably... I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think she wanted to share you, but she didn't want to dismiss your feelings, and she didn't want to lose you over this, and thought maybe we can get through this, and I'll just, still be here type deal. So... And I'm not saying she maliciously was like, I'm gonna kill my sister, and, like, you wait and see. Like, I'm not saying like that, but, like, what did she say about her sister? Like, how did this make her feel towards her sister?
They lived in the same room for a very long time, and I do think they were a lot closer before I came there. I mean, it sounds kind of, I guess, rude, but it was kind of a situation where Fatiha was never very fond of Saima. They never clicked the same way. Because of, I guess, Saima's personality around the house seemed like a very uncaring, or I guess not really thinking of others when she does things.
Saima?
Yeah, that was Fatiha's view on Saima.
Okay.
And especially after everything, came to light about us talking, and so she really didn't like talking to her. And she told me, and like I said, I have very splotchy memory, I have very poor memory, and even though I doubt myself a lot, I at least feel like I have a strong hold on how I would react to certain information.
Okay.
And so Fatiha called me after she had done it, the murder, and we talked a bit, and I was one of the things she said was like, I told you that, like, I had violent thoughts about her, and stuff, which I really barely remember, but I know that if she would have told me that, like, because when I hear violent thoughts, it doesn't seem, I don't automatically assume, oh, she's close to murdering someone, because I feel like it's a very, I guess, normal thing to me. It's like, oh yeah, like, I want to punch my boss in the face,
right,
I want to...
Yeah. Violent could be, it's a broad term. We know what it means, like, in a sense, but, like, there's multiple ways to be violent.
I mean, if I knew, it would be, like, it was anywhere near this serious,
What would, I guess, be an example that you could recall? Like, that she may have said something about Saima that she would consider violent, or that even you would consider to be violent.
That's something that she said she planned to do, or something she felt about, like,
Saima.
something she wanted.
Yeah, like, because she said, she told you, I told you I had violent thoughts about her. Okay, well, like, what?
Nothing.
What were those violent thoughts? Like,
I don't know.
Or you can't recall specifically?
If I can't remember, I don't...
Had she ever told you she thought about killing her sister?
No, I had no idea. On the phone call, she specifically told me, because I told her I was still kind of in disbelief and in shock, because, it was just so random, because I was talking to the both of them very normally. I didn't really suspect anything wrong, and she told me that she specifically didn't tell me that she was going to do this because she knew that I would try and stop her, and so she purposely didn't let me know that she was planning something like this, and that's why she didn't come to me with it. I mean, the only thing out of the ordinary that I noticed in her behavior recently was that she's normally a very, someone would say, like a penny pincher, kind of like doesn't like to spend her money. If something goes up by like 30 cents, it's like, oh, I can't buy that anymore. And she doesn't like to spend her money unless it's something very necessary or something very, I guess, just much needed. And I noticed she's been spending money, like more. She went to Universal with her sister, and just kind of like randomly. And I thought, I knew she was upset by everything that happened, and I took it as, oh, she's not holding on to all of her money for me. She's starting to be okay with spending it to enjoy herself and, spend time with her other sister. And I thought it was a positive thing at the time. I thought she was just...
So it's like something you noticed about her. She used to like save every nickel and dime, and then more recently she kind of was like being a little more relaxed with her spending.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Kepsel inquires about the Amazon account. Joseph didn't know everything she purchased on there, but she would use it to send him gifts. He clearly has no idea that she used it to recently purchase the pair of daggers. When you got that 40-minute phone call on the day of the homicide, what was the context of that call? Kepsel asks. Joseph explains he had been playing a video game at the time, unaware of her Discord call attempts. But when his actual phone rang, he realized she was really trying to get a hold of him. I think I'm going to jail, she told him. Of course, knowing sweet and innocent Fatiha, his first thought was along the lines of a car accident or something, not murder. It's hard to remember the specifics of the call because the news had been so shocking. He didn't even realize until now that the call was 40 minutes because it was all a blur. A lot of back and forth, a lot of why questions, and a surreal haze of disbelief. A part of him wanted to believe that it was just a sick joke because it was so out of character and too horrible to be true. He asked her how she could do something like this, and Fatiha told him, I couldn't bear to see you with her. I couldn't let it happen.
And so tell me about that phone call on the 26th, because it was like a 40-minute phone conversation. So tell me about the day of the homicide when you received that call. Like, what was the context of that call?
Well, me and Fatiha always call on Discord. I can't remember the last time we called on the phone. And I was playing a game at the moment, and I noticed my phone was ringing, and it was a phone call from her. And I knew that since it was a phone call, that she's really trying to get a hold of me. It's like, oh, I should answer this. Because I didn't know she was... I checked later after I picked up the phone, and I saw that she's been trying to reach me. Just maybe like 40 minutes or so on Discord, and I picked it up, and, I'm already worried because, it must be urgent if she's trying this hard to reach me.
Right.
And she says, I think I'm going to jail. And I say, it's like, and, anyone, because my friends have heard her talk, they've interacted and stuff, and I'd say most people that have met her. You know, she's a very, like, sweet and innocent person. You know, just, you'd never expect, like, violent outbursts or, you know, acts of rage from her. It's just so hard to picture mentally. And so I immediately thought, it's like, oh no, you know, she might have accidentally hit someone with her car and killed them, and, you know, just worried about going to jail. And, like, I really thought it was an accident. I'm like, well, you know, what's going on? You know, like, are you sure? You know, like, this isn't funny, you know, if this is a joke, you know. And she was, I guess, kind of laughing, but I know it was like a nervous laughter. She laughs when she's, I guess, just nervous and freaking out. And she told me, you know, she said, I killed her. And I immediately, I mean, of everyone, I knew who it would be. And it's, I didn't realize, I mean, I guess you would have the call logged. You know, it's 40 minutes. I didn't know it was 40 minutes. I'm trying to think what we could have said for those 40 minutes, but I know a lot of it was just a back and forth. Like, why, you know, like, why didn't you tell me it was this bad beforehand? You know, how did you do it? And, you know, like, it just, because I really, there was a part of me that really wanted to cling on to the belief that it's just a terrible joke or like a test to see what I'd say or something, even though it's not really something she would do. But I mean, I would never want to believe the truth of what happened.
Right.
And she said, like, why, like, how could you do this? I said something, it's like, how could you do this? And she said, I just couldn't bear to see you with her. I just couldn't let it happen. And, you know, it was a lot of, I guess, just back and forth about that. And it was me, because I was angry, and I was just kind of, I don't know, I was feeling a lot of everything. And I was just like, you didn't trust me enough to talk to me, you know, beforehand. And, you know, like, this is crazy, you know, like, this is insane. You know, I'm trying to remember more. I mean, a lot of it was just...
It seems like you guys are pretty open with each other about your feelings. You and Fatiha. Prior to this.
I mean,
so, like, was it seems like the way you're expressing it to me, it seems shocking.
I mean...
That this occurred. And she couldn't give you any sort of warning or, like, something more than...
As far as I've known, as far as I know, and that I've ever experienced, because she was never really the type to hide things from me. After that, like, initial, you know, she wasn't really comfortable showing her face and all that, but, like, you know, after all that, there was nothing really that I've ever noticed or caught her on that she'd ever hide from me. And so her planning to kill her sister was the first thing that she's ever just truly hidden from me, I felt.
For as long as he's known Fatiha, she never hid things. And there really wasn't much to be secretive about. She didn't express having any strong life goals or direction, which is something they had bonded over. She didn't ever bring up feeling suicidal, which is something he would have expected her to open up about, given how much the topic surfaced in their conversations. She would get upset about things, but her style of dealing with it was very non-confrontational, pulling away and not speaking to him for a while, things like that. Then Kepsel recalls Joseph mentioning he never got his GED, and he clarifies that he tried repeating 9th grade, then tried taking online school, which wasn't working, so he dropped out. He began taking antidepressants around the time that he started talking to Fatiha, but stopped soon after. I was very stressed out, so I still kind of felt like garbage all the time anyways. I thought about it, and whether they were working or not, I wouldn't be able to tell, he laments. Kepsel goes over any last follow-up question she has and then asks Joseph if Fatiha mentioned how she murdered her sister. He says yes, she did it with a knife. Even then, he still didn't fully believe her. I almost asked to see the body, to see if it was real, he admits, but he didn't pursue it because if it was real, he would never be able to unsee something like that. She told him that she wanted to kill herself, but she called him instead. Still her person, even if she was about to tell him something she feared could make him hate her. At the end of that 40-minute phone call, she asked if he still wanted to talk to her. "How could I after this?" Joseph said, telling her not to contact him or any of his friends. And for whatever it was worth, he made her promise that she wouldn't kill herself. "I hate what happened and what she did, but I wouldn't want her to take her own life," he says sadly. After a few days of silence, he messaged her on Discord but never got a reply. He really didn't know the details and that it really did happen until it hit the news and the headlines were everywhere.
So, Fatiha told you how she murdered her sister?
I asked her,
Okay.
and she said with a knife.
Okay.
And I was still at a point where, like, I know she doesn't lie like this, but it was just so out of left field that I didn't know, that I didn't fully believe her yet. And I almost asked, to see the body and to see if it was real. But, I mean, if it was real, I don't think I would have been able to handle that. And so I just kind of left it at that.
Did she say anything about wanting to take her own life?
She did. She said that she was, after she did it, she was going to take her own life. But she called me instead.
But she didn't call you till, like, the evening time?
I think this was the morning, actually.
How many times did you talk to her on the day of the homicide?
To Fatiha? Just that phone call. And then we didn't talk.
Again?
No, I didn't know.
The phone call you saying to your phone. Like, you said she was trying to get you on Discord,
But she didn't reach me.
Right, so you're saying the phone call...
The phone call where she told me she did it on my phone, my number.
Okay. And that was one time that you guys spoke on that day?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess about the phone call, I guess the only parts I left out was, I was getting real frustrated that it didn't really seem like she had remorse, or she didn't it wasn't like I messed up and I did this kind of thing. It was just like I just couldn't let this happen,
Right.
And at the end, she asked me, "Do you still want to talk to me, or are you not going to talk to me anymore?" And I told her, I don't, how could I, after this? And I just told her to go, and I told her not to talk to my friends, and, but I did make her promise. At this point, I didn't know how much a kept promise would really mean to her after doing something like this, but I did ask her to promise me that she wouldn't kill herself, because, I hate what happened and what she did, but I wouldn't want her to take her own life, but yeah, that happened. The phone call ended, and I messaged her on Discord a couple of days later, just because I was so out of the loop, and because she didn't, she said she was going to talk to her older sister about it, and I said, yeah, go do that. And so, because she was going to talk to her older sister, she didn't say, I'm going to turn myself in or any of that, and no one was really talking to me, at the point, and so I didn't know what was going on, whether she was going to get arrested, or, if she was going to try and pull something, I just had no idea, and so I messaged, but I didn't realize by that point she was already arrested.
He mentions that Fatiha had sent a bunch of her money to one of his friends through PayPal, saying if something happened, she didn't want that money to go to her father. She didn't tell him anything about the crime, and eventually Fatiha took the funds back. Joseph didn't know about this until after the murder. Their online friend group would have just figured this was about something harmless, because according to Joseph, everyone in the house was on bad terms with her father. Between the phone call from Fatiha, the media exposure that soon followed, and Joseph finding this out from his friend, he realized, once again, it was all most likely true, instead of a bad joke. Fatiha wasn't ignoring him. She was probably in jail. Kepsel says she thinks she has a good understanding of the relationships from his point of view, and asks Carlos if he has anything to add. Once the phone call ended, what did you do? He asks Joseph without hesitation. It sounds like he was in a state of shock. He says he doesn't really drink or smoke, but it was a lot to think about, so he went across the street to see if something could calm him down or distract him. Carlos asks how he knew it was for real. Did anyone else call him? But for Joseph, it was sort of a guessing game with the facts he was given. Fatiha wasn't one to lie, and both of the girls weren't in contact with him from that point on. So it took a few days to really absorb how permanent it was, and that it really did happen. Kepsel looks over her notes, since this will be the only time they'll have to speak with Joseph in person. Carlos clarifies that when he broke things off with Fatiha, was he already speaking with Saima in a friendly way, or was it more than that? And Joseph says more. He asks again how Fatiha found out, and Joseph explains that the Spotify playlist had a very flirty title, so Fatiha figured it out from that. Carlos also inquires about the polygamy suggestion. I thought that I could have a chance. I thought that it was absurd, but if something, if there was a chance for me to start enjoying life more than I thought, if this wouldn't be it, then I just can't see anything else being it. Joseph dances around the answer. He says all three of them were open to it for a while, but then it was clear it wouldn't work because Saima was so possessive. That 40-minute conversation you two had, was that the last time you spoke to Fatiha? And Joseph says yes. Kepsel checks if there's anything else he can think of before she turns off the recording, and Joseph says no. He can't think of anything that would be relevant. At first, Fatiha would plead not guilty, although it's uncertain what the actual goal was there. She had already admitted to the 911 dispatcher, paramedics, and her family members that she was the one who stabbed her sister in the heart. On top of that, she had described in detail her Amazon purchase, thinking about it for nearly 2 weeks, and planning what she was going to do after the murder. Did she have a viable justification for a crime of passion? Maybe. But that mitigating factor would only get her a reduction in sentence or charge. With strong evidence of premeditation, Fatiha would not be given a verdict of innocence by any jury. And by pleading not guilty, she was moving towards the possibility of a trial, where there was a slim chance that this wouldn't be a slam dunk for the prosecution. Every text message, every piece of correspondence would be made public for all to see. If Fatiha received a life sentence without parole, her family would be stripped of 2 daughters forever. So like many homicide cases, she was offered a plea deal for second-degree murder. Whether she realized it or not, this offer was extremely gracious, considering how cold and calculated she'd been to plot and carry out a murder of her own flesh and blood. Within a short time, she withdrew her not guilty plea and entered guilt of second-degree murder for a sentence between 10 and 25 years. She would also be required to participate in mental health counseling, pay court fees as well as a fine of $10,000, and agree to receive the maximum period of probation as whatever the court would deem necessary if she was released in the future. As a final act of kindness, her public defender only charged Fatiha $100 for their services. But because Fatiha had been so forthcoming during her interrogation, the public wouldn't need a trial in order to hear all the gritty gossip of a love triangle gone tragically wrong. Sometimes the public can even be more forgiving when a murder is classified as a crime of passion, driving a person to the brink of their own hopeless wanting. Jealousy and betrayal are easily understandable reactions. In contrast to callous premeditation, there's an intensity which portrays this idea of emotional impulsivity and irrational lack of control. Even Fatiha herself admitted to having the knives for at least a week, maybe 2. If we're to believe what she says, there's a chance that she truly wasn't even sure she was going to go through with it until the overwhelm of distress provoked her to the point of no return. In this scenario, there's a sudden catalyst that causes Fatiha to see herself as the victim. What she viewed as infidelity and disrespect contributed to impaired judgment, and the love triangle itself is designed to have each person either fellow victim or instigator, depending on whose perspective you view it from. Saima's murder was unjustified and senseless, but in Fatiha's narrative, everyone shared responsibility for what happened, because she couldn't see any other way out. It's an emotionally charged story. Unlike a distant murder carried out in cold blood, this is a why that a lot of people can make sense of. And above all, Fatiha's defense was able to work with the legal system, strategizing a way to lessen her sentence and therefore translating a leniency towards these types of crimes. There's almost an unspoken understanding that the crime was less severe because it's intellectually digestible or even justified, if only to the perpetrator. Sometimes the more we can empathize with someone's emotional state, the more we can humanize them. The court would empathize with the Marzan family. The judge saw merit in the defense's argument that losing 2 daughters for the rest of their lives would just cause them to suffer twice over. By the time she was sitting inside the police station, it's clear that Fatiha had already stumbled into the thought that maybe this hadn't been the right thing to do. That maybe killing her sister wasn't worth having Joseph hate her for the rest of her life. She had built him up into this god of a man when he was just a boy who couldn't make up his mind, stuck at a fork in a road over 2 made-up scenarios in his head. Fatiha had an impressive sense of independence and determination. She wanted a job, and she got one. She wanted a car, and she purchased one. She wanted to save up money to get a place, and so far as anyone can tell, she would have accomplished that too. She didn't need Joseph to complete her life, but her insecure belief that she wasn't enough without him always had Fatiha measuring herself short. All 3 had been coasting on make-believe and wishful thinking, and now it had come to an abrupt end in the worst way that nobody could have imagined. Fatiha has a long time to reflect, stepping closer to the truth that her senseless violence had been all for nothing, breaking everyone's heart, her parents, her siblings, Joseph's, and worst of all, Saima, who suffered and suffocated through the ultimate betrayal. Whatever sibling rivalry or spite may have existed in her heart didn't justify her life being stolen. She was not as cold and calculated as Fatiha made her out to be. And according to Joseph, Saima had spoken about how she didn't want to hurt her sister's feelings. Sleeping in the same room as Fatiha for days and days, Saima had no idea that she would ever hurt her. Not because she didn't appear to have it in her, but because of the inherent trust that comes from being with your own sister. Beyond Joseph or any boy, they would always be sisters. Saima had no idea that whatever was brewing in Fatiha ran as deep as it did. Without a fighting chance, her life was taken with cowardice and petty rage disguised as righteousness. More than anything, Fatiha wanted to win, in whatever way was necessary, even if it meant she would lose, too. And now she lives among the awful ruins of her own creation, where there is no justice and no undoing, trading a future she couldn't let go of for a reality she built with her own hands. Now her life will be greatly defined by unwarranted loss and harbored burdens. Her ultimate shortcoming was not love, but wrath, and a childish inability to give any sense of purpose or possibility to the future. Still, Fatiha will most likely have a chance to make amends in more ways than one. She will have another chance of a full life with freedom and even love, something Saima will never get. And maybe the answer is yes, that vengeance can be pursued further than death. But in equal and opposite reaction, there's also the contrast that one might find redemption after atonement. Or at least, we have to hope so.